Robert Kiyosaki just said, I hope I'm wrong, but I think we're heading to a worldwide depression.
But I think we're heading for a global depression.
You think it's going to get that bad?
Yeah. MSNBC would never let me say what I'm saying.
There's a 70-80% chance Trump is going to get reelected. You don't pivot based on presidents.
Biden, Pocahontas, Akami, Alfred E. Newman, the Donald. You're counting on the government to take care of you?
I don't know. It's an interesting market.
Will you guarantee it?
Absolutely not.
I made more money after 2008 than I ever in my whole entire life, because the best time to start.
Now listen, he said he made the most money after 2008 than he ever made in his life. Did you hear that? He made the most money in his life after 2008.
Start a business is right after a crash.
Incredible.
The average firefighter has about 1.2 million in pension, but there's nothing there.
Meaning what?
Their pensions were stolen.
Okay, be prepared because something's about to happen.
And the US dollar is fake. People are scared. So we're raising a bunch of snowflakes.
The people that are sick of it are not Republicans. It's everybody.
And they're like lemmings, you know.
So what can I do?
Everybody can do something, but they won't. And that's the problem. Don't change the world, change yourself.
30 seconds. Did you ever think you were made?
Don't change the world, change yourself. Is value entertainment?
I feel I'm so close I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to haters. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
He's interviewed a lot of important people.
So I've read nearly 2,000 books in my life, but this book I read was the third book I read in my life, and it completely changed my views. By the way, this isn't the first time we're sitting down with my guest here today. The last time we sat down with him, I think Valuetainment had 1,200 subscribers, and we were barely getting started, and then it's led to what it is today, nearly 2 million subscribers. And while at that time, I think this had sold, I don't know, 25 million copies, I don't know what the number was, Rich Dad, Poor Dad has sold 41 million copies. I suggested to Robert, I said, maybe he's got to do a new book titled 50 Shades of a Rich Dad. Maybe it's got a whole different market. But anyways, it's good to be back with our friend here, Robert Kiyosaki. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you. Congratulations on your success.
Yes, congrats on this 41 million. Are you kidding me? How does it feel knowing you have inspired so many people around the world to, with a simple concept, a diagram that so many use, the EBSI, from an employee to self-employed to business owner to investor? How does it feel, you knowing you've impacted so many people to make that shift?
It's quite humbling, you know, because I almost didn't finish school because I kept flunking out of school because I can't write. So to be an international writer is a miracle.
I bet your teachers, you know, if they had to see that that's taking place, I wonder what some of the critics who knew you at that time would be saying about 41 million copies today. But let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on today. You know, the market is an interesting market today. I'm kind of curious to know what you got going on. Obviously, you wrote a book called Who Stole My Pension, which we'll get into here in a minute. But it's an interesting market. Dow's at 29K, you know. You got Brexit's about to take place, January 31st, you know, 2020. They're kind of going through that to see what's going to happen there.
Now remember, that's 3 months ago. Brexit still isn't a totally done deal as far as I know. I could be wrong. But you've got topsy-turvy markets all over the place. You have people that are going to starve to death, 10 million according to the UN. I hope they're wrong, but I think we've been set up for this thing for a long time. You have elites that are controlling, and military and nations that are controlling weather patterns. I saw a hurricane split into a vector, perfect vector, and go to two different directions. How do you do that on a spiral? How do you do that on a spiral? That was man-made. Think about that. You got people doing stuff in Black Ops that is beyond science fiction. You've got people doing stuff underneath the table, over the table, behind the closed doors that no one even talks about. Millions and billions and trillions of dollars in these things. Trillions of dollars. and yet you got people fighting over crops because they can't feed themselves. I mean, it's an unreal world.
You got the Iran-U.S. conflict, right? You got the trade war with China, that's taking place, and there's some more going on right now with Japan, but they're kind of getting the deal going, right? You got Venezuela still having some issues with Maduro and Guaido with their oil. You got U.S. with politics. It's a very divisive time with mainstream media and Trump and impeachment and all this, just all this stuff that's going on. A lot of people see that as a scary time. A market crashes around the corner. What am I going to do? I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to go through this. How does somebody like you, from your lens, how do you view today's economy and what's taking place?
Well, first of all, the reason I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad was because I knew this time was coming.
Now, isn't that an interesting comment? I knew this time was coming. I can tell you from almost 35, 40 years of looking at what I can see through my lens, that our socialistic world control has gotten worse and worse. I mean, I've been warning people for 40 years. Good crap. And no one will get off their ass. I mean, some people do. I shouldn't say no one. But very few people will get off their butts, their comfort zone, and look at really what in the hell is going on. And it's scary because the shifts, the power, the control, the abuses are worse than they've ever been, even during war.
And we have, as a world, have never been here before. And so is it a spooky time? Damn yeah. It is probably the most dangerous time ever, 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 ever. There's nothing to compare it to because there's never been a world economy before. For example, 100 years ago, if there was a stock market crash in England, it didn't affect anybody. But now the U.S. market goes down, the world goes down. So plus with social media and all this we're doing now, and so we've never been here before. And I'm excited about it because I make more money in crashes than I do when they go up. So, but for the average person, they'll get wiped out. I'm afraid at the worst, I hope I'm wrong, but I think we're heading for a global depression.
Global depression?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Depression. I mean, people are depressed. The economy stays down. It's hard to come back up. And now the good news is that for those who are prepared for it, like you and things like this, you'll do better. See, not everybody dies in a plane crash. Some plane crashes. But the last crash in 2008, I was on Wolf Blitzer's program 6 months before Lehman Brothers went down. And I said Lehman was going down. And nobody listened, but it went down. And so I've been expecting this market to go down for quite a while. And I'm concerned about my fellow human beings. But as you know, most Americans are clueless. They don't know what's going on. But if you travel the world, I just got back from Africa and China and Japan and New Zealand. People are scared. Australia hasn't had a recession in 30 years. It's in recession. But Americans are fat, dumb, and happy, having a good time, which is good. But I'm concerned. That's all I can say. I'd be afraid if I had kids.
You'd be afraid about having kids today?
If I had kids, no. I think as an adult, you can go hungry, but you don't want to see your kids go hungry. And that's what's going to happen.
Do you think it's going to get that bad?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What is the biggest factor that's going to...
Quote unquote, kids are going to go hungry. Adults are going to go hungry, but you'll like to see kids go hungry. Think about that. The basics and the needs for the basics are never going to be in greater demand. Agricultural farming, quality food, I think is going to get premium dollar. If you get the labor and the people to work together, certain groups, I think they're going to do well. The people that don't work together, won't work, I think are going to be hurt like never before. And I think that's the majority of American masses and other people in this new world.
Cause that?
Well, the reason I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the U.S. dollar. That's my book over there, Fake, which came out last year. Fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. And the U.S. dollar is fake. Never in the history of the world Has any fake money ever survived? And we're doing the same thing. We just keep printing this money. And when I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad almost 25 years ago, people said I didn't know what I was talking about. I said savers would be losers. Now, today, there's quantitative easing, which is counterfeiting money. And then you have zero interest rates. And people are still saving money. Are you nuts? They just printed, I think, $500 billion in September of this year because the repo market is going down. And the average guy goes, well, what's the repo market? They don't know. So that's why it's fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. Our education system, it has been my rant forever. Why don't we teach people about money? Why is it? We all use money, but we don't teach people about it. So that's why I'm concerned. And I wrote this book, Who Stole My Pension? It's already sold out. But I wrote Who Stole My Pension because was the reason I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The two authors here, me and myself, Edward Siddell, we both had dads who lost everything. And when I was in my 20s and my poor dad lost everything, it scarred me. And I said, I'm never going to let anybody ever do that to me. So I had just come back from Vietnam in 73. My dad was unemployed, poor dad was unemployed, and he tells me to go fly for the effing airlines. I said, are you kidding me? And he says, go back to school, get your master's and get your PhD. I said, are you kidding me? Here the guy is unemployed. He's got no pension, he's got no paycheck, and he's telling me to go back to school. I said, what, learn nothing? And those guys who, my friends who flew for United Airlines, they're broke today. Their pensions were stolen. U.S. Air, same thing. You look at what's going on in Paris today as we talk, they're rioting. Millions of people are rioting because of pensions. Japan, they're rioting because of pensions.
Terrible.
So again, who controls your money? Do you control your money? Do other elites or groups control your money? They can steal your money. They can close the banks. They can steal your pensions. They can steal from your investments. And they do. They do. And they will again. Again, until laws are changed, really changed, to see what's going on, it's going to continue.
You see them, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Americans, I wonder how my 401k is doing. I'm going, gee, I'd be a little bit worried, but they don't know. Americans live in a fishbowl. Everybody sees in, but Americans can't see out. So like I travel the world constantly, and what I see going on in the world is disturbing. I was just in Argentina, and I took my kid brother there, and he came back a changed man. He says, you weren't kidding, were you? I said, no, I wasn't. My brother could not believe that what happened in Argentina is going to happen here.
It's terrible. It's 12 million people working to support 9 million people in Argentina with an inflation of 32% right now. It's a...
Now, he says, Robert Kiyosaki says, what's happening in Argentina is going to happen here. And what they say, 12 million working to support 90 million, 30% interest rate, inflation rate. Listen to this. Very important.
It's disturbing. I was just in Argentina, and I took my kid brother there, and he came back a changed man. He says, you weren't kidding, were you? I said, no, I wasn't. My brother could not believe that what happened in Argentina is going to happen here.
It's terrible. It's 12 million people working to support 9 million people in Argentina with an inflation of 32% right now. It's a absolute travesty what's going on.
12 million working to support 9 million. 12 million working to support 9 million. That's only 3 million difference. Unreal.
On over there. And when you look at Argentina from America, you're like, oh my gosh, it's the Europe of Central, it's a Europe of Central America. When you go to Argentina, it's such a beautiful place, but
it's one of the most beautiful. Buenos Aires is spectacular.
Beautiful place, and it's got nice hotels, food, restaurants, first class, everything. So why do you think sometimes, the thing I'm always curious about is when we're talking about fear, Robert, what is the biggest difference between fear today versus fear 50 years ago versus fear 100 years ago versus fear 20 years ago? Isn't this a common thing? Like when market does well, economy does well, a few people are prepared for it. Most people kind of sit around, don't do anything about it. What's changed? And is that going to be happening 50 years from now, 100 years from now, where people capitalize and most don't?
Well, that's a fabulous question because, today when I refer to 2008, most people remember 2008. Do you know what I mean? That's when Lehman went down, Bear Stearns went down.
38% drop.
Yeah, they all remember it. But when I started Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the only thing they had was the Depression.
Businessman Greg G.
So, we don't really connect with the Great Depression, do we? It can be worse, yes.
Came out in 1997. Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out. And their only reference points was the Depression. And none of the people I talked to remember the Depression. So the fear today, I think people are a little bit wiser, is because they do remember 2008. And they do remember 2000. So 2008, 2000, 2008, and here we are today. So I think most people are at least kind of tuned in. I hope it doesn't come down, but I'm afraid it will. That's what I have to say.
Most people are more tuned in today because it was only 12 years ago when the last market crash happened. I remember 08. 08 was pretty ugly. We started our agency a year later in 09. And
That's the smartest thing you could have done.
Yeah, believe me, it benefited us because we got a contract with AIG at the time and a few insurance companies, and we started growing, but everybody was scared. And a part of, the business for us is fear sharpens listening. If you're able to monetize on fear, you can really do some stuff when the market changes.
But I want to say,
monetize on fear. I'm going to let this go. There's enough here that you need to pay attention to it and listen to the rest of this. But the global crash is expected to come from, quote unquote, from Robert Kiyosaki. Pay attention. It's Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. The basics and the necessities are going to never be greater, but the profits from real estate, from slumlords, from other things, it's going to be horrendous. The riots, the civil disobedience, the governmental control, the social programs are never going to get more locked in than they are with what's coming. So the only positive side of this, or one of the only positive sides of this, is that some people are going to really do well in this type of situation. Others are going to give up. Some are going to commit suicide. Some are just going to give in and go into social programs and throw their hands up. But the repossessions, the foreclosures, the evictions, the other negative things that are going to happen, people trying to pay off something they can't pay off, that are insolvent, you can't get blood out of a turnip. You just can't do it. And I think some of the banks that have a lot of debt, car debt, a mortgage debt, other things, you're going to see real estate really take a plummet. How much? I can't say for sure. But what if it's 30%? What if it's 35%? Think about that. What if it's more? Same with the markets, the investments, the stock markets, the other things. Who's going to take care of the foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, and other negative debt assets? What are they going to do to restructure or try to restructure the banks, the money, the Federal Reserve, the taxation? There are a lot of unanswered questions. Are they going to nationalize farming? Are they going to get back into distribution of food through food stamps and other things? Are companies like Walmart and other major retailers going to be part of the problem, getting subsidies from the government to supply food and other goods? to the masses. These questions we don't have fully answers for. But believe me, the major corporations that are in good financial stead are going to be a lot better off than the poor schmucks like you and me that are not grouped together with illegal and financial assets. And there are assets in a lot of different areas: legal assets, physical assets, monetary assets. Get past rich dad, poor dad. All assets don't have to make you money, but they have a foundation on the bottom line. Believe me, if you're not legally protected, your physical assets could go bye-bye like that. So there are legal assets, there are educational skill assets, there are financial assets, there are media assets, there are lots of things. Anyhow, we're going to end it here. I just know the world is going to go through more commotion, more change, more strife than it has ever went through in the coming years. And it's going to accelerate things like never before. Mark my words. This coronavirus and related things are going to accelerate pressure on people and groups and corporations like never before, and on governments, like on financial markets, in legal terms, in political terms, in moral terms, like never before. How we deal with this is going to be a game changer, from here on out to the second coming. This is Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. Good day.